Living by Design with host Kathy Holloway Hill. Kathy is a strong, powerful voice. She entertains, informs, and inspires her audiences everywhere she goes.
Kathy Holloway Hill, and I am so excited to bring you part 2 of our Living by Design 6-year anniversary celebration. 6 incredible years of memorable shows, and in this part 2 series, we're going to focus on a lot more content similar to what you saw in the first part 1, but we're going to dig a little deeper. And the first topic that we're going to bring to you is on the topic of physical health, because we all know our health is our wealth. In part 1, we talked about the American Heart Association because they featured Erica Campbell as their musical guest. In this series, I want to talk about the American Heart Association from the health perspective, because we have an individual that you're going to hear from, and he is going to be courageous enough to share his personal journey with heart disease. And that is none other than our own Indianapolis legend, very near and dear to our hearts, especially mine, my co-executive producer and the love of my life, Mr. Tony Lamont. We're also going to talk about a topic that really grips our nation, obesity. And then we're going to also talk about the topic of breast cancer awareness. And we're going to hear from another legend who is celebrating her 48-year survival journey with breast cancer. So let's take a look at some clips from some of those incredibly memorable shows.
The heart has 3 main arteries supplying blood to it. Unfortunately, you have blockages of all 3 systems. The artery on the right side is actually completely closed, and it's filling backwards by collaterals that are coming from the left side of your heart to the right side. And then there's 2 branches on the left side. Both of them have 80 to 90% narrowing in them. Because of the blockage there, the only option to fix this is bypass surgery.
Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of my story. One day coming home from work, wasn't feeling quite right, so decided to stop in the emergency room of the hospital. Once I got there, they said I had some problems. It turned out that I needed triple bypass surgery. The doctors couldn't explain why. I had 100% blockage in one artery and 90% blockage in 2, and had not had a heart attack. I know why. By the grace of God.
So, Kim, just kind of give a little bit of your background and talk about when you were a child. Were you overweight as a child? Or, how did the process or the metamorphosis begin?
Being in a home with 3 other siblings, I'm the oldest.
Yes.
So I suffered the lack of feeling loved. Food was more of a comfort because I got to choose what I eat, when I ate it, and I can do it in isolation. Seeing the psychologist and seeing the dietitian was the change. I live in my truth. not the truth of anyone else.
Exactly.
I live in my perspective, not the perspective of others. While it took some years to get to that point, people should live in their own personal truths. Then you begin to deal with the psychological.
A 48-year breast cancer survivor.
I am so blessed.
You are more than blessed. That is incredible, Barbara. So I want to just jump right in because I have so many questions for you. So the first thing I want to ask you is there a history of breast cancer, or do you have a predisposition or genetically inclined or anything like that?
No, none of the women in my family have had breast cancer. My mom, who lived to be 103, healthy as a horse. I went to 3 doctors. The station doctor, my primary doctor, internist, and to cancer doctor.
Okay, oncologist.
Oncologist. And so when I went to the oncologist, he couldn't find it. I said, it's there. So he kept around, and all of a sudden he hit, and I said, ooh, like that. My surgeon was Dr. Ray Smith, Community East. Said he got it all. I had no chemo, I had no radiation. I had no problems with swelling or no after effects. And I did this half-hour special. I did that story on my own mastectomy.
Just so happens I'm one of those women who is practicing self-breast examination each month. Well, this last time I found a lump and immediately made an appointment with my doctor. At first I just couldn't believe that this was happening to me, but now I'm thankful I had the courage to see my doctor in time, and I was lucky because I did do that. You know, the cure rate is 85% if caught in time. And according to the American Cancer Society, 95% of all lumps in the breast are discovered by women themselves.
I never thought I was going to die. I had too much to do.
Good for you.
They had too much to do.
Good.
I mean, you know, there's the career that I had just started, you know.
Yes.
And so that was an incentive to give better, if nothing
Right.
else, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, family, friends, continued breast checking yourselves. Early detection is a key.
It is key.
And hold on to that attitude, and don't forget the man upstairs.
Amen. Attitude of gratitude. Focus on what you're grateful about, and please stop whining about what is not good in your life. I hope you're having as much fun as I am. I'm loving reliving these moments. Okay, now, there were so many other topics and some of the ones I want to focus on, social services, and that's from the perspective of foster care as well as human trafficking. Now, foster care, we had a guest by the name of Regina Louise, and her story was so impactful that it was featured on the Lifetime network, which is big because if you have cable, you have Lifetime. So I recommend, if you didn't see that story, to go back on demand and find it. It's called the Regina Louise story. And then human trafficking is sweeping the globe. So we know how critical that is. The next topic that I want to focus on is female collaboration. And one of the shows that was very, very huge with our viewers, not only did we get a lot of feedback and letters, but the TV network got a lot of feedback and letters. And that was the topic of female frenemies. I recently wrote a book called Secret Betrayal. And the book focuses on how women, instead of us collaborating and celebrating, we gossip, we betray, we envy, we backstab, we unfairly judge each other. So we had a show about, it was a panel discussion about why do women do that. So I want to showcase some of the highlights from that. And then we also had a show that was hosted by a beautiful young lady by the name of Miss Jordan Coleman, and it was called A Seat at the Table. So we want to take a look at some of the highlights from that show. And then there was a very, very important show that I felt needed to be focused on because of what's going on in our nation today. And that's the topic of mass incarceration. We had a young man who actually served some time in prison as a result of racial profiling. And so we're going to take a look at that. And then we're also going to take a look at, I first want to say, Congratulations, and celebrate all the entrepreneurs. Because entrepreneurship is not easy. It's a challenge. But I do want to focus on one show with an individual because it was such a hit with the viewers that, well, you know it was a hit because you probably know who I'm getting ready to say. And that's Miss P.J. Wesson, the Purse Lady. P-U-R-S-E. Oh my goodness. This lady has some of the most incredible purses, and she's been an entrepreneur for so long, and she had such great advice. So we're going to take a look at some of the memorable moments from that show. Let's take a look. She has already impacted me so significantly, and she should have impacted you because her autobiography was featured on not only the Lifetime channel, but also Lifetime Movie Network, talking about her autobiography with her experiences and her journey in the foster care system. And that is none other than Miss Regina Louise. Regina, welcome to Living by Design, beautiful.
Hey there, Kathy. You look beautiful. Wow. I lived in a home with a woman that my father had left me, in whose care my father had left me.
Okay.
She was very religious, very physically violent and abusive. And I knew I couldn't tolerate her speaking Jesus out of one side of her mouth and wanting to beat Satan out of me and the other side of her mouth.
Regina, let's talk about your reconnection with your mom. I mean, there's so much we could talk about, but I'm just really trying to get a lot in here because your story is just so compelling. So when you finally got through the challenges and the hurdles and you were able to reconnect, how did that feel?
There's no word for it.
I can imagine. I can imagine. If you had to just tell our viewers your mission is to stop sexual exploitation. What?
Yeah, so really what our pledge to the community is that we're going to provide recovery, relief, and restoration to local victims of human trafficking. So recovery is truly the act of recovering that girl, right? So she is currently being exploited, extorted through sex trafficking or something like it. We are going to, with partnership with law enforcement, local legal system representatives, things like that, we're going to go in there and, for lack of a better word, get that girl and put her into safety.
Traffickers are actually looking for certain types of posts that people are sharing where they are talking about how things aren't great at home and different things like that, and they are preying particularly on kids that kind of seem like they would be willing to run away, or that they do have some of those vulnerabilities that are going on. And so then they are, if the kids don't have proper privacy settings on their social media, then they are able to really talk to anyone, anywhere in the world, really. That's right. And so they start talking to people that they don't know that could be lying about who they are, or maybe they aren't, and they're just, comfortable talking to someone that's quite a bit older than them.
What do you feel is the bottom line reason, the core reason that females judge and gossip and unfairly treat each other and envy each other and try to sabotage each other's work? What is going on with that, and why do you think that occurs?
I think a lot of it happens when they haven't found themselves at a very early age. Some people don't have the opportunity to be cultivated in an environment that fosters them to search their identity and moving in their purpose. They're like, oh, well, you think you something. So it's an insecurity, and it's also just a lack of knowing who they are.
How did you come to discover what your purpose was, Tonya?
I think just talking with people. So early in kind of my career, I was really seeking meaning in my life. I was in my early 20s, and I thought, okay, I've done what people told me to do, but I still don't feel fulfilled. I feel empty inside. And so when you just share and talk to people, and some of them definitely were other women that said, hey, have you thought about, in my case, like a career in the nonprofit sector? And and working with youth. And I was like, what is that? I had no idea that existed.
I am now here with the founder of this incredible event, Miss Jordan Coleman. And Jordan, welcome to Living by Design. I am so proud to be here at this incredible event, A Seat at the Table.
Thank you. I'm so glad that you're here.
Yes. Now you have to tell our viewers what created this masterpiece. What was your motivation?
So it was based off of my own issues. Being an African American woman, especially a young African American woman, trying to get to the table and trying to move up. And seeing some women of color that are at the table, but they're not willing to reach back and help us. So I wanted to create an event where we can come together, build together, grow, and talk about some of these issues. So that's kind of where the whole mastermind came from.
So with me, you know, as you get older, you start to learn more because you start to experience life more, and you start to go through different challenges, and you start to face different things. And so some things, you know, you probably thought you would never encounter, and then it happens, and you're like, oh, okay, so this is where we are. Let's figure this out.
My name is Philip Roberts. I was incarcerated for 2 years at the Plainfield Correctional Facility, where I met Miss Deborah Devines. She leads a workshop, a creative writing workshop, and when I was released from there, you know, she kept in contact with me and, you know, became my mentor and, you know, helped me to spread the word about, you know, mass incarceration and just raise awareness.
Excellent. And Deborah?
And I'm Deborah Devines. I'm the founder of Indiana Prison Writers Workshop. I met Philip along with several others in the creative writing class that I founded and led, and he was a bright star and put in the hard work while he was incarcerated and wrote very well, and fortunate to serve as his mentor and help provide him with some opportunities, speaking engagements and writing opportunities on different blogs.
I got to a point to where I didn't have the will or want to get up and do anything, right? So, you know, I had talked to the psychiatrist there, you know, he ran through the little questions or whatever, and he diagnosed me with depression. But I was still just worried about, you know, my daughter. I have a little girl, and you know, she was 2 years old when I got incarcerated, and just the whole time I was just wondering whether or not she was going to remember me when I got out, knowing that I had to do, you know, a total of 2 years.
Let's just get right into it, and let's talk about your company called Personology. Yes. How did you come up with that name, and what is Personology?
Personology basically is the study of persons. So I call myself a personologist. I had this one lady, I'll never forget this, and I'm going to try not to cry. She had 6 kids, and she said she never buys anything for herself. So she saw 3 purses she liked, and she bought one of the purses. And so God just put it on my heart to give her the other 2. And she literally cried like a baby. She was so excited to have those 3 purses because she said she was a single mother, she had 6 kids, and she couldn't afford a lot of stuff for herself. And it just felt so good to be able to do that for her.
Yes.
And for her to be so happy about it. It gave me so much joy.
I could imagine.
So I just love picking out stuff that, you know, people really like. It just, I don't know, it just gives me so much joy to find something that's unique that I know they're not going to find anywhere else, and that is going to match what they're looking for.
Welcome back, and you know what? I saved the best for last because we've had so many incredible musical guests and musicians on our show over the past 6 years that I just really wanted to bring all of this together. Now, there were some in part 1, but I wanted to bring some in part 2 as well. And these individuals were very, very, very iconic and very impactful. Now, even though there were many guests that we had the opportunity to interview, I want to focus on a few. The first one is Miss Allie Caldwell. She was a contestant on not only The Voice, but also P. Diddy's new show called The Four. And then I want to talk about Mr. Brian Thompson. Now, he was a local celebrity here in Indianapolis, but he's national and on his way to being international. He's a saxophonist and just a prodigy. He started so young. And this next young lady, Miss Leandria Johnson. I think that's all that needs to be said about that. And then we want to end with a local group who are the brothers of the iconic, legendary, world-renowned Babyface. and that's After 7. We had the pleasure of not only interviewing After 7, but they recently lost one of their family members and one of the founding members of After 7, Mr. Melvin Edmonds, and we did a tribute show to Melvin. So we're going to go out with some clips from some of those shows, and we hope you have enjoyed this part 2 segment of 6 incredible years, starting in 2020, entering our 7th year on the air. And I'm so blessed and I'm so thankful for you, our viewers, for supporting us. Please go to our YouTube channel, Living by Design, subscribe, and also you can see a little bit more extended version of some of the highlights. Thanks for joining us. There are no other words for the brilliant, the beautiful, the anointed, the talented, Miss Allie Caldwell. Allie, welcome to Living by Design.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this interview. This is just another amazing platform for me to share my gift with the world and to add more people on to connect to, and for them to hear my story and for them to see who I am and, understand what hard work looks like and to be that light for somebody.
Hi, we are back now with Mr. Brian Thompson, and he is a prodigy. He's a saxophone player. He's a piano player. He does it all, and I am so excited to have him on the Living by Design show. What made you want to start this, and at what age?
Well, I was 9 when I actually started playing the saxophone, and I was actually, one of my very first performances was here in this exact place. I was 9 years old with Greg Bacon, and there was a lot of people here, so that was like the first time that I was able to come here, but it just kind of boosted my career. I just started playing all over the place.
This is my side right here. This is my side. Lord, deliver me. It's all I seem to do. Hurt me. Hurt me.
We never believed that we would step back into the studio without my brother Melvin. And it wasn't because of such a little warm and cozy feeling. It is that too, but the other part of it is the reality is he is such an integral part of the sound, signature sound of what people know as After 7. And I quite honestly, for many years, people have asked Keith and I, as we've been working and so on and so forth, when are you going to record a record? Well, we'll record a record when Melvin comes back to the table. And so finally at this point, they decided, let's try it. And we had no idea what the pathway looked like, what this journey was going to be, or for that matter, even if we were going to record an entire album. One thing turned into another, and we found ourselves creating what we what you refer to as a masterpiece, what we think is timeless.
If you do happen to love me still, I promise I'll keep it real with you from this point on and on and on. I'll give you the sun, the rain, the moon, the stars, and the fountain. I'll give you the world and all that you wish for, and even more. But girl, I love you more than you could know, and that's for sure. 'Cause I climbed the highest hill, across the wide sea, nothing could disturb me. And I praise it to me, always ever me, forevermore. Oh, ooh, yeah, baby. I'll give you everything and more. Oh, baby, all that is yours. I'll give you everything, all that you're looking for.